Welcome back. You're watching NewsX. I'm Uttar Pratap Singh. 3 people have been killed in a violent clash in Uttar Pradesh's Sambhal after a mob opposing survey of a mosque clashed with the people. The survey was initiated following a court based on a complaint alleging that the Mughal caused the crowds. Meanwhile, 18 people have been detained following the clash, and a drone survey has also been conducted to trace protesters, and 15 police personnel were injured. Now, joining us to discuss this further is Sumit Peer, political commentator. Major Ali Shah, Impar panelist, is joining us live. Naveen Chomal, senior lawyer, is also live with us. Ahmed Ayaz, political analyst, is joining in the broadcast as well. Let me make a start with you first. Sumit Peer, what do you make of this chain of events that has led to the flare-up in Sambhal in Uttar Pradesh?
Uday, thank you very much for having me on your show. Always a pleasure. Well, if you look at the sequence of events, first of all, it is alleged there was a temple there which was built in 15th century. Baba demolished the temple. Now there is a group of 21 people who is represented by Vishnu Shankar Jainji. They went to the local court and they asked for the survey to be done, and it is on the Adesh and Nirdesh of the court, on the orders of the court, the survey was conducted. The police did all the bandobast. Police people were deployed. At 6 a.m. the police team arrived, the survey team arrives at the spot on the behest of the court. Now suddenly there's a mob of 150 to 200 people which attack the police team, this surveying team. After 2 hours they have arrived at the spot. Now here to be noted, DM is on the spot, SDM is there, collector is there, and SSP police, everybody is there. Barricading is done. What have they done first? First of all, they have broken all the CCTVs which are installed by police. Secondly, if you look at the CCTVs of the nearby houses and the shops and all, they were dismantled. Thirdly, they set on fire the police vehicles. Fourthly, there are reports in the media that the police was shot at, there were gunshots were fired at the police. And what you will be surprised to know, Uday, that some of the police walas were coming in their private vehicles, that's a car or a bike or whatever. Even they were chosen and set ablaze. So it is believed that a group of people under a concerted plan wanted to come and disrupt this. And let's not forget, Sambhal is a 78% Muslim dominated place. The impression which is being given out is that if it is a Muslim dominated place, the rule of law will not prevail, Bharat ka Samvidhan will not prevail. Only at this kind of a mob mentality and mobocracy will prevail. It took 3 hours for police to control the situation, and unfortunately we have 3 people dead, and even 2 police walas are critically injured. One of the person who was pelting stones and all is also believed to be critically injured. So the point I'm trying to make that this death toll might rise up. But the challenge here is that this was a court-ordered survey, nothing more than that. The impression which is being given that if it's a Muslim-dominated area, you can't even do a survey of that. And this kind of mobocracy, now NSA will be imposed on them as per the SP. And I think around 12 or 18 people are already in the police custody, and more are being identified with CCTV. But the point here is, Udayji, if you look at all that, sir, it's a very planned effort to systematically do it. Why will you dismantle police CCTVs? Why will you break the CCTVs of the houses and shops around there? How do you know which is a private vehicle of a police wala? Why did you set fire to the police vehicles? Why did you do firing on the police? Now even there are some reports, I'm not alleging, there are some alleged reports that the members of the Hindu community have been moved out to a safer place because there's a fear of a bigger riot around the Jama Masjid. So this is what the synopsis is. This is a very worrying situation. That too when it comes after yesterday's Maharashtra Chunav Vijay. And let me tell you, Akhilesh Bhaiya is saying that it is all orchestrated by BJP. So if we turn the tables around and say, how do you know it is orchestrated by BJP? Why not by Samajwadi Party for that matter? Now these allegations are happening that, there was mass rigging in the elections and all. When, and it was the same Samajwadi Party who was claiming that we'll win all 9 seats. So what is being done? You are trying to disturb the law and order position in the UP. You are trying to paint the state, which is doing very well, as a disturbed place, and you are trying to flare up the violence. And I believe it's a group of 150 to 200 people. Not everybody is involved. These are the people who under a design and under a plan came in and did what they have done it, and it has become the national headline. And there will be people who will be jumping on it politically by this today evening or tomorrow morning, trying to paint the whole Indian law and order situation black and say there's a huge tension between Hindus and Muslims, which is not the case. And this is a very, I think, Uday, this is a very strong conspiracy angle behind it. But it is Yogi Adityanath ji at the helm of affairs. I can assure you, nobody will be spared. And it's not only NSA, you should also impose UAP on them, so that whatever the loss of property and they have done and they have caused damage to the exchequer, that should be recovered from their properties or whatever. This should be done. And the rule of the law has to prevail.
Yes.
It's not that you can't let a survey happen.
Okay, let's take that to Major Ali Shah as well. Major Ali Shah, this was a survey team ordered by a court which had gone there, and there was an attack on them, a systematic incident, says Sumit Peer. Your response, and what do you make of what was the trigger for this violence in Sambhal?
Okay, Uday, firstly, I see no harm in any survey. It would only clear the air. It would make doodh ka doodh, pani ka pani. It would make things more clearer if a survey is done in a very, very fair and square manner. So I see no harm in that at all. But I see a problem when there is a Places of Worship Act in place of 951, where whatever was there in place should be honored. That way, there's no end to it, no? Then there was Ramjanam Bhumi, then there was, there are so many things. There was, that way we can dig out old history. Gade murte kya nikaloge? So the very fact is, see, I am a Muslim and I'm very proud to be a Muslim. I feel that if I respect the other community, only will the other community respect me and my faith. It's a very, very personal matter. But now, then there was Gyan Bapti, then now there is in Sambhal. Regarding violence, I would urge both the communities, all my countrymen, to please maintain restraint. Please do not get into violence. Please don't take law in your hands. Please don't get into vandalism. Because that will work against you. You will have to buy thereafter. So, violence anywhere, of any form, is just not justified at all. And there are things which can be settled amicably. There's always a middle path, there's always a middle ground. But then violence is not the way. That's not the way, by taking things in your hand, a law in your hands. Now, see, and in a country like India where there is democracy, an elder brother should know how to treat the younger brother. A younger brother should know how to respect the elder brother. It works both ways. 5 fingers in my hand over there. 1 finger gets fractured. I will not be able to clench my wrist. So united we stand, divided we fall. We should not get divided. We should not flare passions that, oh, tera mera Hindu Muslim. Enough of that. Enough of communalism. Enough of polarization. Why can't we respect a place of worship which was there, whether it happened in the past, wherever it happened, whoever. See, I will not deny the fact that invaders, yes, they must have a destroyed place of worship. They must have restructured certain places, but that's what invaders do. And it is not that because they were Mughals or they were this or from that mazhab or that religion. That is a very, very sad state of affairs which should not have been done. But पुराने ज़माने में यही होता था ना. Earlier it was जिसकी लाठी उसकी बहस. Earlier, much earlier, but now times have changed. So we have to go with the changing times where we have to be secular. We have to respect every religion. Nowadays, it is like if you are secular, it's not considered to be, people are frowned upon. No, a secular person should treat everyone's religion with equal respect individually. And yes, the Places of Worship Act to be enforced.
Okay, let's get in Naveen Chomal at that. Naveen Chomal, secularism is being targeted in a way in the country, says Major Ali Shah. What is your response to him? Also, Naveen Chomal, a survey should be done. But what about the Places of Worship Act is the point being raised by Major Shah. What is your response to it? Things should remain how they are. Forget whose temple or whose mosque was demolished by whom.
Udayji, for last several years, there have been debates after debates where we have very successfully proved, and even from the speeches of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar also, that even when the constitution was being framed, that time also that word secular was being sought to be introduced in the preamble, but Babasaheb Ambedkar argued against it and prevailed. So secular word insertion in the preamble of the constitution during the time of emergency was one of the big fraud played on the nation. When the nation is dominated by Hindus, you don't require secularism. Hindu mentality is far more superior to what secularism concept is. Then secondly, that Places of Worship Act was nothing but a big injustice and attachar heaped upon Hindus, that some robbers snatch somebody's property and then say that okay, now whatever snatch is snatched, hereafter the victim shall not cry. It is same way very important mandirs of Hindus where we have faith, they were demolished and converted into mosques, and Narasimha Rao wanted to appease the Muslim minority, and that is why the Places of Worship Act was introduced in the parliament and passed also. So that particular act is also being criticized, and it has got section 4, which has got an exception also, which says that the places which are already in dispute can be out of the purview of this particular act. So coming to this crux of the matter, this particular mandir was the mandir of Harihar Mandir, and it was pre-dated to Babar, and it was having a great belief of Hindu Sanskriti, and in our scriptures it is mentioned that in the Kaliyug, the Kalki avatar will be born in that particular place, and it was Baba's first Babri Masjid that was demolished was this particular Sambhal Masjid. Around 3 big mosques were built by Babar. One of them before Ayodhya was this Sambhal Masjid. So there are total, and the Muslims had particular uncanny ways of doing it. They used to demolish the mandir partially, give the mandir remains there to be visible to the Hindus for generations as a sign of their atrocities of the Hindus that look upon your temples we have built the masjid. So this is basically a day in, day out atrocity on Hindus. So Hindus are right, and more than what Mr. Major Muhammad Ali Shah knows, our judges also know secularism, and despite that on the petition they have taken a considered view and ordered a survey first, and the survey was going on, and that was second round of survey. First round of survey had taken place, and today was the second round of survey, when in a systematic pre-planned manner the Muslim mob gathered, and what Rahul Gandhi has been saying in the parliament, Hindu means Hinsa, Hinsa, Hinsa. The reality, the entire world knows that Muslim means Hinsa, Hinsa, Hinsa. And what they have done today is prove that. Rather than talking, rather than going to the court or in any appellate court, they resorted to Hinsa. So police were bound to act in the self-defense. So whatever damage has been done today is what you say, they have to thank themselves for it. Ultimately, the rule of law will prevail, and the interest of the majority as compared to the what you say fraudulent minuscule minority will not prevail in the country. That is the rule of justice everywhere, jurisprudence everywhere in the whole world. So I support the survey and whatever action the court may take in the matter.
Okay.
And lastly,
Okay.
Udayji, in the Babarnama also there is a reference that what do you say Mir Beg, the Sardar of Babar, went and destroyed this particular mandir and built a mosque. So in Babarnama also there is a reference of it. So we don't require much proof.
Okay, I'll come back to you. Let me get in Ahmed Ayaz as well. Ahmed Ayaz, come in here and respond to those points raised by Naveen Chomal, of course, responding to the Places of Worship Act applicability universally, also saying in this particular incident in Sambhal, it was a pre-planned conspiracy. Why indulge in violence to block a court-mandated survey?
See, it's well known that the matters pertaining to religion, these are very sensitive and highly inflammable and can be, flared up. The situation can be flared up. So, considering that these things will come in the way of development of the country, the Worship Act was Religious Places Act was passed somewhere in 91, and holding the position of religious places as it existed in 1947. So this being a case of where we say that the Mughals have invaded and then have demolished the temple and constructed mosque, has happened somewhere around, as per history, happened somewhere in 1529 or so. So being such an old case, now that if really we are all serious about to see that the country moves ahead and development takes place and we don't get into these communal tensions, and as it was envisaged by the previous governments, and accordingly they brought in an act to see that there is a stop put on all these situations to happen, and to not to give any room to flare up or to open a Pandora box. And I wonder as to why we don't respect that part of act which was passed by the parliament, because that was not ordinance or an order just passed administratively. It was a Parliament Act passed. And if we really mean to carry out the constitutional, obligations, and then to behave as well-behaved citizens, and there does not seem to be any reason. Or are we mean to maintain peace more so, which is more important for a country as development? If we really are serious about that the peace is maintained, why should these issues of such a nature, which can divide communities, we can create a havoc in a country, why should these cases be brought up very frequently? We have seen that earlier it was Babri Masjid, then it was Ganvi, and then now it is the Sambhal, and tomorrow it may be something different. We never deny that these situations must have taken place. Invaders must have done it during their period. We don't say no. So considering that this is going to be a problem for the country, that's why the Religious Places Act was brought in. And what was the purpose? Purpose was only to see that it does not flare up, situations are not allowed to happen, to see that the country gets divided. And what are we doing today? And who are doing it? And I think, do you think that we are working as a very responsible citizens? I don't think any religious fellow who is religious will do it. I think this, to me, it looks to be all politics. And that too, why is it happening only in a particular area? And more so, with all what is said about, and it speaks about the law and order situation of that particular area. And how is that the situation is not being well maintained if there is a direction of the court? First, people should not have seen to it that this is flared up. It leads to attention and it leads to division. And then now that, okay, somebody has approached the court or whatever. And then it should have been seen by the administration that it is done in a way that there is no disruption of the law and order, and it raises an important question there also. I mean, that way it looks to be a total failure, and it does not mean to be based on some, it is nullified as it looks, that other intentions does not seem to be, to see that things happen in a proper way. So as such, I think this need to be seen from that, aspect also. It's not simply that somebody claiming that it was a temple and not a mosque. I don't see it from that very, very particular point only. I think we'll have to see from the larger, angle as to what's happening. Why are these situations coming up, knowingly that these have been put to stop? Why are these coming up? I think we need to review all this as to why it's happening. If really it is so that we need to reopen and let the Pandora box open, let us see, then why not to pass an act in the Parliament? Why not to, review the 1991 Act and see that some new act is passed? And why to force things the way it's happening today? 3 pills. Somebody was saying that it's not a big issue. 3 people seem to have been killed. And do you call it it's a simple issue? It's a serious issue that way. And that too, bringing 2 communities against each other.
Okay.
That way also it's not that easy. So as such,
yes.
I think it...
Okay, Sumit Peer coming back in. Yes, Sumit Peer.
Uday, there are 2 or 3 things which have to be cleared here. First of all, when the survey of Gyanvapi Masjid or the mosque or the mandir, or the structure was allowed by the High Court, and then the survey was upheld by the Supreme Court. Yeah, so legally, 1991 Act is not the fig leaf under which you can hide and say, by 1991 Act nothing can be done. So there's a jurisprudence that the survey was allowed, and this is exactly what the Muslim court went to the court for, that there's a Place of Worship Act. This was brought by Narasimha Rao government, when Naveen ji rightly said for Muslim appeasement, but the Honorable High Court and Supreme Court said, yes, the survey can happen, there is nothing illegal, and 1991 Act is not the something which can stop this survey from happening. So there's a judicial prudence now, there's a procedure now. So this 1991 Act is not thing. And let me tell you one thing most important about the 1991 Act. Uday, a lot of people don't know it, and a lot of people conveniently hide it. Naveen ji will bear me out, he's a lawyer here. Look, in 1990 Place of Worship Act is covering those places where the fundamental structure was not changed. Let's say if there's a mosque for 1000 years or 2000 years, it's a mosque, it remains a mosque. There's a temple for 2000 years, it's a temple, it remains a temple. But in the intervening period, if the nature of the place got changed, from a mandir it became a masjid, or from a masjid it became a mandir, but there's hardly anything which became a mandir from a masjid. So when the fundamental nature got changed, then sir, the Places of Worships Act 1991 is not applicable. Let me make
Exactly.
this clear. It is not
Exactly.
applicable. नहीं है बिल्कुल applicable. So
Exactly.
it's not a fig leaf that कि 99 का act है, anything can be done on the pretext of that. It clearly states, that clearly states where the nature of the place is not changed. Here the nature of the place is changed. So technically, legally speaking, it does not come under the 1991 Act. And 1991
Section 4.
Ji. So this is the
Okay,
important
then-
point we want to make. And
Make a- make-
the
make a
secularism
point.
cannot be done on Hindu faith's carnage only. The secularism cannot be carried on the by Hindu के कंधे पे उसकी dead body रख लो. Secularism is a two-way thing. And by which virtue do we support violence? I mean, how was secularism getting impacted by a mere survey done? Survey हो रहा था ना, तो कुछ नहीं हो रहा था. If you resort to violence, if you have a Muslim mobs coming and attacking police and firing at the police, then the things are getting out of the control. And
Major
now,
Alisha.
look at systematic way it was done. Uday, what do we make out of it? Why is Akhilesh Yadav jumping into it? How does Akhilesh Yadav know all these things? And this, thing that if it's a Muslim majority area, you can't even do a survey. This is the message. Which
Major Alisha.
Well, that is not acceptable.
Okay, I don't think Major Isha can hear me. Yes, Ahmed Ayaz is coming back
Yes.
in. Ahmed Ayaz, go
Uday,
ahead.
Uday, I
Ahmed
can hear
Ayaz,
you.
go
Uday, I
ahead.
can hear you.
Ahmed Ayaz, go ahead.
I find Uday, I can hear you.
Ahmed Ayaz, go ahead.
Uday,
Ahmed
I
Ayaz,
can
go
hear
ahead.
you.
Please,
Can you allow me to
Major
speak?
Isha, I allowed you your time. I don't think you had your connection there. Ahmed Ayaz. Ahmed Ayaz.
No, point is, you see, without touching, even if we don't touch 1991, though that very much exists, and because of these situations only, to see that there is no claim of each other's, what has happened before 47. That's why the act was passed, precisely. Still, considering that, okay, it does not have an impact on this very particular issue. The major point is, if we all are peace-loving and very sincere, and to see that things don't happen and there is no enmity between the communities living in the India. And why is the question of 1529 years, issue coming up in 2400 after 900 years? Why, if at all we are not aimed to disrupt the peace, to create a situation, why does these things come up now?
Okay. Yes, Naveen.
Yes, continuing from what very beautifully explained by Sumit ji about the Places of Worship Act.
No, but
Now,
why is
the
this?
structure-
Ahmed Ayaz saying, why is this suddenly happening? If the act has been there for so long, why is this suddenly happening?
That is because all these years the Hindus were, tolerating the injustices. But now the Hindu community is woken up. Just look at the Maharashtra result yesterday, the results in Uttar Pradesh yesterday. So the violence that has taken place today is basically a frustration of the Muslim mob that they could not win the Maharashtra election, they could not win the UP election. So a particular group of politicians is instigating them that you come on, flare the violence somewhere. So when our other co-panelists are trying to preach peace, they should preach peace to the Muslim community, that you should follow the law of the land, you should respect the order of the court, and you should maintain the peace. The entire burden should not be upon Hindus, and we Hindus never broke the peace. We were doing the survey as per the court's order in a legal and peaceful manner. The entire breach of peace was done by the Muslim community as usual. That has been happening since the British time and post-independence also under the Congress rule. So now, zamana badal gaya hai. Now the Hindus are waking up. Maharashtra result is the certificate of Hindu waking up. Batenge to katenge. So ultimately now Hindu knows how to deal with the situation.
No,
So
in the case of Babri
if
Masjid,
somebody is talking about the peace, he should first preach to his own community and what is he looking, खुद के गिरवान में झांक के देखना चाहिए.
no, in the case of Babri Masjid, a claim was made, a point was made that time that why the Muslims don't show the magnanimity. That also was a point.
Did you show magnanimity? Did you show
No, I
any
tell you,
magnanimity?
wait, don't let me. No, I don't want to. No, I don't.
Uday, I need to come in for a minute. Uday, I need to come in for a minute.
No, I don't want to get into the discussion.
No, I don't know why Mr. Naveen Chomal is so angry. I don't know for what. Because he's my co-panelist talking peace, so Mr. Naveen Chomal is angry. Is it because he's talking peace, he's talking love, he's talking about brotherhood, he's talking about humanity? Is that why you're angry, sir? Naveen, sir? Please answer that. Why are you so
Okay,
angry, sir?
Major Alisha,
Why are you
the
angry?
floor is yours. Major Alisha, pointed questions to you. On how it is secularism if mobs are attacking the police and forces who have gone for a court survey. That's the question Sumit Peer has for you. Please respond.
Right, Uday, I totally agree with Mr. Ahmed Ayaz. He said during the Babri Masjid time, the Muslims did show magnanimity, and my father, who was the erstwhile Vice Chancellor of the Aligarh Muslim University, Lieutenant General Z.U. Shah, he had said the Muslims should actually give over the land of Ayodhya to the Hindus.
But that didn't happen. But that didn't happen. But that didn't happen.
He did show magnanimity.
But that didn't happen. That didn't happen. The Supreme Court had to rule on it. The Supreme Court had to rule on it.
Because what General Shah said was very right, that in case the Supreme Court rules it, strikes it down, for Muslims, they will lose face. So it's better before ruling comes out, it's better you yourself give the land. But that did not happen. That's a different story. Now, secondly, I found Sumit Peer's and Mr. Naveen's versions very contradictory to each other's. I will tell you why. Mr. Naveen is an advocate, a reputed advocate with a lot of respect. He said we are law-abiding citizens. He said the 1991, the Place of Worship Act, is actually a big mock on Hindus. He said that himself on your show. Firstly, he said that, which I don't think so. I think it's not about appeasing anyone. It's about creating peace and calling in for peace. Sumit Peer said that here in this case, it is not applicable to the 1991 Places of Worship Act. Whether it is or not, that's a different story. But Sumit Peer's version was, it's not applicable. Which means the lawyer, Mr. Naveen Chomal, is not, he said he's a law-abiding citizen, but he said the 1991 Act was, he gave total disregard to that. It's as per the Constitution. Whatever should be done keeping the Constitution of India's framework in mind. That is one thing, should be very, very clear on that, and everyone should respect the Constitution of India. No one's above the Constitution of India.
Okay. Should magnanimity then be shown here as well? Should magnanimity be shown here as well in Sambhal? Should this mosque be handed over to the authorities?
Jose, firstly, peace should come in. No one has the right to take law in the hand, and in fact, Mr. Naveen wasn't, I don't think he was hearing what I said. I urge both the communities to maintain restraint, show calm and composure, and please don't go for violence. So it's not about preaching, it's about explaining to people who may not be very well educated, who are liable to
Sumit Peer, the floor is yours. Do we have Sumit Peer with us?
Why don't you maintain status quo as it has been happening since
So that applies to the Muslim community only. Hindu community did not come out on the road. It was only the Muslim community against the law enforcement agency. So there was no Hindu-Muslim clash anywhere.
Sumit Peer.
So whatever applies.
Uday, the pretext is very simple. When it comes to Hindu interests and Hindu places of worship and all, you know why we are told that it is because of secularism and all, you have to just lie low and give away your interests. Point number one. Point number two, the Place of Worship Act does not cover the places of such nature, sir, where fundamentally the positions have changed. It is not covered by that. That's point number two. Point number three, which is very, very important, is Hindus did not resort to violence. Nobody burned the police, struck police jeep, nobody fired on the police. The people who fired on the police should be handled by the police, na?
Alright.
Why are you asking?
Alright, I'm going to have to leave it at that. My thanks to all of our guests for joining us. We've run completely out of time on this discussion. Let's take a short break.